Welcome to Whispers in the Dark. I'm here to help you unwind and relax this evening. Before we begin, I'd love for you to take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Only if you truly enjoy the experience I create here. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always wonderful to see how this channel brings together a global community. Just so you know, there will only be a few ads within the first 15 minutes. And after that, the rest of the video will be completely ad-free. I hope you'll give this story a chance. I believe you won't find tales quite like these anywhere else. Now, dim the lights, put on your headphones, perhaps turn on a fan for a gentle background hum, and let's begin our evening together. What if the voices inside your head weren't yours? What if they whispered to you at night, not to warn you, but to claim you? This is the story of a man whose mind wasn't just haunted, it was invaded. His art, his thoughts, even his soul, all belonged to something else. And what started as sleepless nights ended in a nightmare no one could escape. It began with whispers, soft, fleeting, almost like the rustle of curtains in a quiet room. At first, he thought it was exhaustion, a side effect of too many late nights and too much coffee. But these whispers had a rhythm, a pattern. They didn't fade. They waited. And then came the shadows. They weren't the normal kind. These ones moved differently, bending at impossible angles, stretching across his walls in ways the light couldn't explain. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, even laughed it off as stress. But deep down, he knew something had stepped into his life. He told himself it wasn't real, that his mind was just playing tricks. But the whispers grew bolder, crawling into his thoughts, finishing his sentences, filling the silence. And when he closed his eyes, he swore they were closer than ever. But the voices weren't content with haunting his nights. They wanted something more. The longer he went without sleep, the more the world slipped away from him. Shadows didn't just move, they watched. Corners of the room seemed deeper than they should have been, as if they led somewhere else entirely. He started sketching at night, desperate to distract himself. But the sketches weren't his own. His hands moved without thought, lines scratching across the page faster than he could follow. When he looked down, the drawings were grotesque, twisted faces, endless eyes, distorted figures that stared back. At first, he ripped the pages out, crumpling them, ashamed of what he had created. But the whispers praised him. They told him to keep going. They told him he was finally seeing the truth. He wasn't creating anymore. He was recording something that wanted to be seen. And then, one night, a new figure appeared on the paper. Unlike the others, this figure wasn't monstrous. She was perfect. A woman, etched in charcoal, with eyes so piercing it hurt to look at them. He didn't remember sketching her. But there she was, staring back as though she had always been waiting. The whispers grew excited. They circled around her name, though he never fully caught it. Every time he drew her, his exhaustion faded. Every time he captured her face, the whispers grew softer, almost comforting, almost approving. Soon, his apartment filled with her portraits. Dozens of sketches scattered across the floor, taped to walls, pinned to canvases. She was everywhere, and each new image felt more alive than the last, as if she was stepping closer to reality with every stroke of his pencil. But this wasn't inspiration. It was obsession, and obsession always demands a price. He couldn't stop. She consumed him. Food went untouched. His phone gathered dust. Friends who knocked on his door were ignored. Nothing mattered except drawing her. And the strangest part? She changed. Sometimes subtly, sometimes drastically. One sketch would show her smiling with delicate warmth, the next glaring with cold fury. He realized he wasn't just drawing her. He was recording her moods, her presence. She was alive in the charcoal. At night, she haunted his dreams. At first, she sat in silence, watching him sleep. But then she began to move, walking closer, whispering, touching his face with cold fingers that made his skin crawl. He woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. But instead of fear, he felt pulled toward her, like a moth to a flame he couldn't resist. He told himself it was madness. But the whispers reassured him, keep drawing. She's not finished yet. And the more he drew, the more real she became. It reached a stage where the line between waking and dreaming dissolved. He'd walk into his kitchen only to find charcoal smudges across the counters, new sketches pinned to the fridge, sketches he didn't remember making. The woman's eyes followed him everywhere. On paper, on canvas, in mirrors, in shadows. Sometimes, just for a fraction of a second, he saw her move. A tilt of the head, a flicker of the lips, a gaze that locked with his as though she was watching him too. And then came the nights when she wasn't confined to paper. He'd wake, breath caught in his throat, to find her sitting at the edge of his bed. Silent. Still. Waiting. He tried to scream, but the whispers smothered his voice. One night, she leaned in, her lips brushing his ear. "Draw me again," she whispered. It wasn't a request. It was a command. He stopped leaving the apartment. The curtains stayed closed, the lights dim. His world shrank to charcoal, canvas, and the endless urge to capture her image. Every sketch pulled him deeper into her orbit. Friends tried to visit, but he no longer answered the door. His phone buzzed with messages, but the screen stayed dark. He was vanishing from his own life, piece by piece, replaced by the woman in the sketches. And she wasn't just confined to his mind anymore. People passing by his window swore they saw someone standing inside with him, a pale figure with dark, hollow eyes. He didn't care. He was no longer drawing to escape the whispers. He was drawing to serve her. And then one day, the sketchbook was empty. The final page filled with an image that looked nothing like a drawing. It looked real, like a photograph. And that's when she stepped out. The world outside hadn't forgotten him. Months later, his artwork surfaced at a small gallery. At first, people came out of curiosity. But curiosity turned into obsession. Each portrait of the woman drew viewers closer. They stared for minutes, then hours, unable to look away. Whispers spread through the crowd, the same whispers that once haunted him. People said the woman felt alive. Some swore they saw her blink. And then, at the center of the gallery, one canvas stood taller than the rest. The final portrait. Her face, more vivid than any painting had a right to be. When the lights flickered, some said her eyes shifted. Others claimed they heard her laugh. But one thing was certain. She wasn't just in his apartment anymore. She was here, among them. The man who first drew her was never seen again. Some say he became part of the canvas, trapped inside his own creation. Others believe he followed her willingly, vanishing into the same shadows that had once whispered to him. But the portraits remain. They travel from gallery to gallery, city to city. Each time, more people fall under her gaze. More people hear the whispers. More people feel her presence following them home. And maybe she's watching you too. Because once you've seen her face, she doesn't let go. So ask yourself, was she just his imagination? Or did he open a door that should have stayed shut? One thing's for sure. If you hear the whispers tonight, don't answer them. Because she's still looking for someone new. And that's where the story ends. Or maybe it doesn't. Because if she could step out of his sketchbook, who's to say she isn't standing behind you right now? And that's the end of tonight's tales. Thank you for keeping me company. It makes the darkness a little less lonely. I hope you found that perfect mix of fear and fascination. I'll be back tomorrow with more stories and mysteries. Until then, sleep well, and remember, they're only stories. Sweet dreams, my friend.